The review from the British Medical Journal said this book is a timely and eye-opening investigation into how social media is reshaping the way we think about health. Bad Influence takes readers inside a world where personal narratives and viral trends have more power than peer-reviewed research. This is essential reading for anyone with a social media account or anyone who cares about the future of evidence-based medicine in an age of influence. That's what the British Medical Journal said. Here is my review of the book Bad Influence. Spoiler, I don't think it's essential reading, and I don't agree with the British Medical Journal. Welcome to a bonus episode of the Health with Hashimoto's podcast. On bonus episodes, I do book reviews. I would love to know what books I should be reading next. What do you recommend? Let's talk about it. Hop over to the Health with Hashimoto's community over on school.com, SKOOL.com, and let me know what books I should be reading next. For any book that I give a positive book review to, there will be an affiliate link down in the show notes. Of course, you can still go to your local library and support your local bookstore. Amazon is just available for everybody, so the affiliate link is down there. The full title of this book is Bad Influence: How the Internet Hijacked Our Health. And honestly, as soon as I read the title, I was hooked. I knew I wanted to read it. I did not expect to only give it 2 stars. And here is why. I figured it would be a good book. I figured that, yes, the internet has hijacked our health. I completely agree. And I know that social media is not necessarily built on good research. Social media is built on stories. However, the author and I do not share a worldview, and that is where the disconnect comes. Essentially, I agree with her on a lot of the problems she identified. I feel like she did a really good job researching and telling stories and identifying how the internet has hijacked our health, because it has. But I see the world as an American. Free speech is our fundamental right. Every single person has free speech. We value that so much. Also, as an American, every single individual in America can chase the American dream, and that is built on autonomy. So I really value autonomy, especially medical autonomy. During COVID, we really saw this divide between people who believe in medical autonomy and people who believe in the government controlling things. And that's the worldview that the author seems to be in. She is in the UK, and she has this worldview of growing up in socialized medicine. The government's job is to take care of your health. That is not my worldview. So while I agreed with her on a lot of the issues, a lot of the problems, I did not agree with hardly any, maybe 0, of the solutions that she proposed. For example, let's talk about medical autonomy. There are companies that provide full body MRI scans. It is elective. You can choose to do that if you want. The insurance doesn't pay for it. So if you are, concerned, you can do this full body MRI. Now, the issue comes when the results come back and maybe you need further testing. Maybe something was inconclusive, or maybe there was a shadow and they say, well, we can't see exactly what's here. There might be an issue of concern. We don't know. So you want to follow up. In the UK with socialized medicine, then that follow up becomes the government's problem. The government with socialized medicine, there's already a really long waiting list to get onto any testing, and the government pays for it. So if you have this elective procedure, this elective test that you chose to do, and then you need follow up, then who is responsible? Well, in America, I guess it depends on your health insurance. I opted out of insurance completely this year. You can listen to my podcast where I interviewed somebody from New Health, KNEW Health. I have been really impressed with that not insurance plan, really loving it, quite honestly. And I do intend to do a follow-up now that I've done my labs and I've done, some healthcare with my nurse practitioner. I will do a follow-up on New Health. But I value medical autonomy. And if I choose to do a test, then I know that I am also choosing to take responsibility for the follow-up. And same thing with wearables. She had a lot of I think a whole chapter on trackers and wearables. I have an Aura ring. If you've heard my story, you know that when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I looked at the root causes and I was like, I'm sure that sleep and stress are either root causes or symptoms or both. And I would like to know what's going on in my body so that I can take action and so that I can see the data and figure out if what I'm doing is working. When I got my Aura ring, I realized that my deep sleep was just pitiful, just minutes a night instead of 20%, which is the ideal. And so I worked really, really hard on getting my deep sleep up. Wearing an Aura ring was very valuable for my health. I got to see my own data. I got to see what was going on. I got to make changes and I got to track that. One concern that she identified is who owns that data, who has access to that data. And like I said, I identify and I agree with a lot of the problems that she identified. Who owns that data and what can they do with it? And can they sell it? That is a big deal. If you are having, you use an Aura ring or use a thermometer or use something for fertility tracking, companies pay big money in order to know who to target for fertility and pregnancy, because that's a huge market. So can a company that you are using to track your data or to do elective testing, can they sell that data? That is a problem, and it is a really good question. It's something to be aware of. But again, I value medical autonomy, and I am going to say I want control over my health data, and I want control. If I want lab testing, I'm going to do that. In fact, I have episodes teaching you how to get your own lab testing. Her worldview differs. She does not value medical autonomy. She values what she considers safety in the government. I would call it overreach. She might call it government regulation. I don't want the government regulating my health. I don't want the government restricting what people can and cannot do. Now, of course, there's a line. We don't want people to be unsafe. So I guess maybe we differ on where we draw that line of what is unsafe. Now, one big thing about social media is the algorithm is based on clicks. It's based on your attention. And most people do not have their attention attracted to facts and figures and education. We are attracted to stories. And therefore, the algorithm, even with health, it is prioritizing stories and big emotions. And that is a problem because the people who give big emotion stories are not always, I would say not often, trained. In fact, the more training somebody has, the more schooling they have, which means they know more nuance. They know just more details. They know the pros and the cons. They know that it's not all one-sided. And that's not as exciting to listen to, especially in a 10 to 30 second quick video. It's just not exciting. And so social media, you have to just understand that every single video you're watching, the algorithm is learning about you and it's trying to feed you what it thinks that you're going to like. And then the more you consume what's on your feed, the more you think that everything aligns with that. It's a mind game. I think we all know that, especially if you've watched any of the documentaries on social media or if you've read any of the books. Overall, social media, it is not designed for education. So I went into the book thinking of social media as something that I consume and that I was critiquing. And like I said, I agreed with a lot of the problems. I was amused to find out towards the end of the book that I'm an influencer. I don't think of myself as an influencer. I think of myself as a regular person trained as a nurse, experiencing Hashimoto's, but also teaching Hashimoto's. And I guess I just don't see myself as an influencer. But she did have a section on podcasters. And specifically, she was kind of talking about health bros. It was a lot of the guys. I don't know why she was picking on the guys. I don't remember hearing about any of the females in the podcasting space. But she picked on Andrew Huberman quite a few times. And I have listened to Andrew Huberman's podcast, The Huberman Lab. I think it's really good. I think he does a very good job. He's very smart. He knows how to read the research. He knows how to tell stories. He knows how to give the pros and cons of different things. I find a lot of value in his podcast. Well, she feels that he's too much of an influencer. I guess she went into a group, I don't know if it was on Reddit or somewhere, where wives were complaining that their husbands were getting too healthy. Now, this is not a complaint that I feel is very common on the internet. I usually see wives complaining that their husbands are not healthy enough and how can they get them interested in health. I'm super glad that Andrew Huberman is in this space and educating so many people and doing it in a way that guys relate to. I have sent his podcast to my adult son. He's 18. And so he doesn't want to hear information from me, from his mom. In fact, my kids often complain that I am a health coach and I'm a health educator. And why do you have to be so healthy? Because I don't want to be healthy, like that kind of thing. So sending an Andrew Huberman podcast about a topic that he's curious about is wonderful. So it was amusing and kind of confusing, just bemusing. I guess, is that the right word? That combination of amusing and confusing. It was bemusing to hear about people complaining that their husbands were getting too healthy. Now, in every single aspect of life, you can go overboard. And so, yes, if these people are going overboard and the husbands want to invest in, saunas and cold plunge and doing all of the different supplements. I listened to an interview. It wasn't on the Huberman Lab. It was on a different one. He said he was taking, I think, over 100 different supplements a day. Like, that's crazy. You can go overboard, but that's life. That's not Andrew Huberman's fault. That's human nature. And in anything, you're going to be able to have the people who, forget that there's a Goldilocks range. And I want you to know that. I want you to be able to be the CEO of your own health. That is one of my primary goals with this podcast, is to educate you so that you can make the very best decisions for your own health, because you are the CEO of your health. You elect, you promote, you hire different people to be on your, quote, board of directors, your doctor, your chiropractor, your therapist. All of these people are on your board of directors giving you the best advice that they can. But you are the CEO. You make the choices. And my worldview, seeing you as a CEO of your own health, is absolutely not aligned with the message of this book, which is people should not have this much control. So overall, I gave the book 2 stars. It was fine. I identify and I agree with a lot of the problems that she identified. I just don't agree with any of the solutions. So pick it up, read it. It's good to learn about what's going on, how social media is hijacking your brain and how the algorithm is trying to feed you and sell you different things. That's interesting. I just, like I said, I don't agree with her solutions. I would love to know your thoughts about this book if you have read it or listened to it. And also, please let me know what book I should read next. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please discuss any questions or concerns with your healthcare professional. No statements have been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration, and any products mentioned are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.